Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sirhan on X, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States of America. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful 18th of August 2025, and a wonderful weekend. Late start tonight due to the preseason game that's going on here in Cincinnati versus Washington. Before I get to everything, I guess I got to touch on what I just saw just a minute ago, because we know that's just running wild on the internet. Because someone explained to me why in the world your $300 million quarterback is still on the field after getting horse collar tackled, and why you have a head coach who's absolutely more moronic than its fan base right now, and why the heck is he still on the field? Someone needs to give me an explanation for that one, or all of us, because I can't justify, after looking crisp on that offensive series the first time, why he's even out there with guys who can't even get open or can barely make an NFL roster. But the game is going on. I'm done with the preseason football till the NFL starts. A week from tonight, I will have my official NFL preview, and I have a lot to say about this organization when that time comes. But I'll go ahead and get right down to my show here tonight. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day and weekend. Crazy day here in Cincinnati. Crazy day all over the Cincinnati weekend news waves, and it's just all over the place, and it's still ongoing, especially with this game tonight, and in lieu of what just took place just a few minutes ago in Washington. Somebody explain to me why in the world Zach Taylor would want to leave this guy on the field, because you basically got lucky that he's still nothing bad happened to him. So that's what we have out of this. To it. Sorry for the bit of a malfunction. Let's start with what took place. The big news here in Cincinnati over the weekend. It is, of course, Trey Hendrickson, and supposedly the Bengals want to explore trade options now. All kinds of news waves all over the place, all kinds of news waves everywhere, and all kinds of stuff regarding him. And if you see the defense so far tonight, I think everyone is on pins and needles on what in the world is going to happen. Well, let's just start with this. I've said this countless times on the X platform, and I'm going to say this again. This is what's happened tonight is a byproduct of when you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins paid top dollar. And this was why, over the past several years, that the Cincinnati sports media and the Bengals fans pushed this narrative and got it. They didn't pay attention to what's the other side of the ball. And look what we saw what's happened the last two seasons. I know it's a preseason tonight and last week, but we've seen what's happened so far. And now, in lieu of what's taken place, I guess earlier he spoke to the idiot Laurel Rutledge, and he basically said it was all about guaranteed dollars. I mean, I get it. It's all about the guaranteed dollars, and that's basically what it's come down to. Now, I've been saying for the record, I've been consistent when I say this. I think a deal will get done. It'll be more later rather than sooner. I don't know when that later we're going to be. At one point he talked about holding out for the entire season, which I think would be a moronic move by him. Look at Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh when he did that. I mean, he was just basically done at that point. But I still say, Trey, something will come between the two. It'll be whenever. Now, of course, he said the asking price for the Bengals was, marquee players and a high draft pick, which they're not going to get. I mean, nobody could be that stupid, because a part of it would include somebody paying Trey Hendrickson top dollar, which for a guy who's 30 years old and maybe peaked the last two seasons with the 35 sacks, and the law of averages will probably catch up to him. No one's going to pay him that dollar and fork out that type of compensation. So I don't think any of that's going to happen. I expect Hendrickson to be on the field before they travel to Cleveland week 1, whether it's be with a current deal or a new contract, who knows. Apparently they agree to it, but it's in terms of its guarantees. But we in Cincinnati know how the Bengals front office works. I mean, everyone does. Yours truly being one of them. But that is why I quit pointing fingers at the front office, because you're not going to change the tiger stripes. Anyone knows this, bar none. Everyone knows it for a fact. It's plain and simple. So when you talk about the team, what they're going to do, I expect them to have something in place and something done within the next, probably after the preseason, before they go to Cleveland. I expect something to be done, and I expect Hendrickson to be a part of the team. But this is a byproduct of touching my next topic, because everybody knows I've just been going at it with everyone in the Bengals community, and I'm going to restate my position again. We have morons for the last 3 years in this Bengals community when it comes to the Bengals fans, the Bengals sports creators, the Cincinnati media, whatever you want to call it, who push this narrative to want Burrow, Chase, and Higgins paid the top dollar. And now they're wanting Trey Hendrickson paid the top dollar. And they're, now they're talking about wanting a new offensive lineman. Apparently Dalton Risner is supposed to be coming in for a visit. I don't know about how that's going to go. I mean, he'll be an upgrade by default, but what is that really seen at the end of the day? But the narrative that the Bengals fans and the Cincinnati media pushed to have Burrow, Chase, and Higgins paid top dollar while neglecting the needs that have been necessary is where they fail and where they show their cowardice and where they show their moronism. It's day after day after day. You see it all over the timelines on these social media platforms. Pay Trey Hendrickson, pay Trey Hendrickson, pay this guy, go get this guy, trade this guy, trade that guy. If you didn't pay Burrow, Chase, and Higgins top dollar, or at least had a bit of a mindset to take care of your needs first, you wouldn't be in the mess you're in right now. Because that's what's happened. I mean, we've seen it so far. I see it. It's a preseason. I get it. But that's what we have so far. I understand it. That's where I put the blame on everyone else. I don't put blame on ownership because, as I said, for about the last 20-some-odd years, you're not going to make the ownership change of stripes. Everyone's hoping that after the that Super Bowl run they had in 2021, that they're going to be a whole new different shebang. They maybe made the Super Bowl run just in spite of what took place during that Super Bowl run, because I don't think ownership liked it. But I'm done pointing fingers at ownership. It's who they are at the end of the day. Tigers are going to change their stripes. But all you guys in the Bengals community, you look at yourselves in the mirror, because you guys want to Burrow, Chase, and Higgins pay top dollar. And as a result, you forgot about the fact you needed an offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. And in fact, you needed a defense who, over the last 2 seasons, outside of Trey Hendrickson, brought nothing to the table. And that's why you guys went 9-8 and missed the playoffs 2 consecutive seasons. And at the rate you're going, you might miss the playoffs for a 3rd straight season. God, I hope you don't, but that's the rate you're going. You guys need to look at yourselves in the mirror, because this is a timeline that's taken place over the last several years. And now it's being shown live on national television what exactly is going on. I mean, I get it. It's a preseason game. But because you didn't take care of an offensive line and the defense, you let Jaden Daniels run wild on you. And you got Joe Burrow horse collar tackled. Really, he shouldn't even be out there on the game. That's another topic with Zach Taylor for down the line. But that's what you got at the end of the day. And all you guys in Cincinnati, the Bengals fans, the Bengals super fans, and the Cincinnati media, you all made that bed when you want Burrow, Chase, and Higgins paid top dollar. You got it. You made the bed. Now shut your mouths and go lie in it with them, because it's going to be a wild and not a great ride at this rate. And you guys can just go sink with them like the Titanic. And as I said before the season, that investment you guys made in those 3 guys, it's going to end up worse than Enron. And we know what happened with Enron at the turn of the century. It's going to be that bad. And I'm just going to sit back and say, I told you so. I hate to do that to my own team, but it's some people in my fan base who I just cannot tolerate. And because they want to act the way they do, I might as well just counter. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, that's the way things are. And that's why all the other fan bases are just having their fun right now with what's going on. Because when you made the investment to pay those 3 players the top dollar you paid them, and not even pay attention to the real needs of your team, that's what you're going to get. Look at Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City has their franchise quarterback. What do? They invested in an offensive line to protect them. We talk about Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, and the drafting of Josh Simmons. Look at Baltimore. They have Ronnie Stanley as a left tackle. That's a pretty darn good center in Tyler Linderbaum. A couple guys, I'm sure they probably need to be retooled there, but they protect Lamar Jackson good. Look at Philadelphia in that offensive line. Of course, you have the standout Lane Johnson at right tackle, Landon Dickerson at the right guard position. That's supposed to be how you invest in a team and how you invest in succeeding in today's NFL, especially when you have a franchise quarterback. That doesn't mean pay the guy top dollar or pay wide receivers top dollar. You invest in the fact that you put a team together, and if you put that team together, you're going to go places. That's where Bengals fans failed when they wanted Burrow, Chase, and Higgins paid top dollar. I'll touch on this probably more times, and I'll give my official prediction in my NFL show next week. Ooh, feels good to get that off my chest. I told someone I was going to go off about it, and basically what happened earlier tonight with the horse collar validated my point. And now everyone has their panties all up in a bunch and crashing out. But I told you guys from way back when you wanted Chase and Higgins paid, this was going to happen. If you got those two paid top dollar, that's what you wanted. That's what you got. You made that bid, shut your mouths and go lie in it. That's what I have to say. And speaking of wild news here in Cincinnati, in the baseball front over the weekend, there was, of course, the series with the Reds and the Brewers. Reds intentionally blew an 8-1 lead without explanation. Had the game Saturday under control till they blew that one. Managed to escape yesterday. But the real story was after Saturday's game when Jake Fraley supposedly had a catch and had a pop to something with his hip. I don't know what happened. He got designated for assignment by the Reds organization. Now, remind you, this guy played through injury in 2023 when this team was, at least in the wild card playoff hunt, and he was pretty good and hanging in there. Remember, he was a key piece of when the Reds won 12 straight 2 years ago. And last year, he was playing through the entire season while his daughter was going through some form of leukemia or cancer or whatever. And then the guy, basically mistimes a catch. I mean, it happens. But he injures his hip, and the Reds basically tell him to go out the door. Talk about a cold move. I mean, that's about as cold as I've seen anything and anybody do, ever. Why? Because, I get it. Jake Fraley hasn't been great this season. I get it. He wants more playing time. That's what him and Terry Francona have. Understood. But when you consider what this guy went through over the last 2 seasons and what just happened, you DFA'd that guy. If you want to send the guy down to Louisville, have at it. You called Will Benson up, but Will Benson should have never been sent to down. I don't know why he was in the first place. But one of the coldest things you could do is to basically just tell a guy to get out the door after he basically played through a season with his daughter or his child going through, leukemia or some form of cancer. I want to say it's leukemia. Don't hold me to it. I don't know what it is. But that's what happened. And, of course, the injury, trying to make a routine play, which doesn't help. That's just a horrible set of circumstances. If you want to send him down to Louisville instead of DFA him, I would have been fine with it. And I'm sure everybody in the Reds community would have been fine with it. I understand it. I get it. He wasn't playing all that great, but you remember his play during that 12-game winning streak of the Reds a couple years back was why they were in the playoff race for the National League for a while. For this to happen at this time, it's something I just raise my eyebrows at and just ask a lot of questions about because, I get it. It's a business, and I get it. That particular position with Cincinnati has a pretty much depth, and I think they're supposed to have another call-up. Not sure I would DFA him when you consider what he's done over the last 2 to 3 seasons. And it's caused a lot of sparks in the baseball community here in Cincinnati, and I understand it. I wouldn't have done it. Maybe send him down to some form of a rehab assignment to probably get him back on track. I know he wanted to play more. That's between him and Francona, but not sure I would have DFA'd a guy who went through what he's gone through the last 3 years over here, and that's just basically a foul ball. I'll just put it like that. It's a foul ball. So that's what we have at the end of the day. Now to what took place Saturday night. And, of course, my favorite topic these days is FC Cincinnati. And they did it again when they, after 2 embarrassing losses over the past couple of days, they found a way to handle the team out of Portland. Kevin Denke returned for a goal. And now they are back in the supporter shield race. And I've always said with FC Cincinnati, with everything that's going on with the Reds and the Bengals, the real talk of the town is FC Cincinnati. And kudos to them for a big win in Portland because now they're back in the supporters' shields rate. I believe they're number 1 in points. I've always said that there's something magical every time this team plays and every time this team wins, especially when they play here at home at TQL Stadium in Cincinnati, or anyone that watches them on the Apple app or whatever platform they want to watch them on. They're always something special, always fun to watch, and that's how they treat the fans here with enormous delight, and it's a beautiful thing. unlike the Reds and the Bengals, who basically just don't give a darn. FC Cincinnati, I'll acknowledge this. They know the crowd, they know the atmosphere, and they adjust to it. Especially the head coach, Pat Noonan, and the players over there, which rubs off from the players to the fans and vice versa. Now, FC Cincinnati is a more unique crowd than what we have with Reds and Bengals fans because all they do is complain about waking up in the morning. FC Cincinnati fans, we talk about cherishing the moment, just like a lot of the soccer fans do, overseas with World Cup play, Euro Cup, Manchester U, among many of those teams overseas. They cherish the moment, they enjoy it, and they're always up celebrating and cheering, and it's a beautiful thing, and that's what it is. And that's what we have with FC Cincinnati, and they're rolling right now again. Looks like they got out of their little funk because they went 2 games without a goal, especially when we talk about going to Miami without Lionel Messi and not being able to score on that team. But they're back on the winning track, and I'm looking forward to more sellouts here at TQL Stadium. Within the next couple of weeks, I and this show will be live from one of those stadiums, and it's going to be a different atmosphere. And trust me when I say this, you're going to like it, and you're going to see a side of me that makes you say to yourself, I did not know you had this in you. Yes, I can be a bit of a soccer junkie myself because those guys over there, the Bailey, they may be a little local in the head, a little bit loose cannon up top, but they cheer their guts out, and they basically up the energy to bring the atmosphere at TQL Stadium like none other. And I'm going to sit back and enjoy it. Big win, FC Cincinnati. Other news, of course, tonight in Washington, of course, on the other side, it was Terry McLaurin ending his holdout. I don't know what this means, but if you're Cincinnati, you pay Trey Hendrickson. You're Washington, you have no other choice but to pay Terry McLaurin. Because what is your wide receiver room outside of Terry McLaurin? I mean, what is it? I don't even know who it is. I mean, Deebo Samuel. I mean, the guy's basically a utility player, playing in the backfield, offset eye, the slot, whatever. But he's not a number 1 receiver like McLaurin is. And when you consider what McLaurin went through during the old ownership regime, and we know how bad that was, and through all the quarterbacks they went through, and you finally get a high-level rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels on a rookie deal, and the franchise does not want to pay Terry McLaurin, what does it say about the organization at the end of the day? But like I said with Hendrickson, I think this one is going to be done because they have no other choice. Who is their wide receiving core outside of, we talk about Terry McLaurin, because I don't even know who is on that roster that's basically capable of doing the job that he does, because that's what we have with the situation here in Washington. Because, as I said, the wide receiver room is terrible. I mean, they have a decent team. Remember, they're coming off an NFC title run where they just got stomped by Philadelphia. Then again, Philadelphia stomped everyone on their route to the Super Bowl last season. But I expect him to have a deal done. Of course, on the other side with this deal, Washington's looking at offers with Brian Robinson Jr., I think is what his name is. That's an odd one, because if you really think Austin Eckler is going to carry that team in the running back game in Washington, you have another thing coming, because that's not going to work. I mean, they have another guy, Bill Krosky, I can't even pronounce his name, who they like, but I don't know much about him. But when you talk about this particular situation, okay, as I said the other day, the running back market is tricky. But if you're going to trade him, what's your other options? I mean, Austin Eckler, I remember him from his years as a Charger, a very sound running back, still doing a formidable job over in there in Washington, because I was there, of course, when he basically ran all over the Bengals week 3 last season, and I seen it out of my own 2 eyes. But what do we get out of something like this? Because Washington has something good going. What do they feel the need to mess it up with the McLaurins and the Robinson situations? I mean, could you possibly make a deep run in the NFC? Maybe. Well, why would you want to mess it up? I mean, you have something good going. You have a rookie quarterback, not just any rookie quarterback, the rookie of the year, who was probably the best quarterback of the 2024 NFL draft when they drafted him. And I said all along, the Bears should have drafted him over Caleb Williams, and you want to ruin it. I mean, I hope they stay together. I still think, I don't know about Robinson, but I still think McLaurin stays, because their depth chart is, after McLaurin, is I don't know who the heck the guys are. I couldn't find 10 guys out of Walmart shopping cart who can find, I know better than the rest of the Washington Commanders roster. Good luck. I expect McLaurin to be there. I expect Washington to make a run. Now, of course, the real wild news out of Cleveland. I'll try to interpret this the best I can. I have the notes up here. It was one of their 20 quarterbacks. I lost count after 10. It was Dilllon Gabriel coming out and making a comment about entertainers and competitors. He's trying to clarify it, saying entertainers or media members and competitors are football players. I mean, and of course, the moron Stephen A. Smith, who doesn't know how to shut up to save his life, has something smart to say about it. First of all, the only real one that's dumb and idiotic is Stephen A. Smith. All he had to do was shut up. That's plain and simple. As far as Dilllon Gabriel goes, he said the entertainers are the media people, the competitors are the players. I get it. I mean, the kid's a rookie. I mean, question is, why are you talking about all this when you just were abysmal in Philly over the weekend when he threw those pick sixes all over the darn place? Goes to show you again that the quarterback situation in Cleveland is a mess. I know they announced Joe Flacco as a week 1 starter, but that comes as no surprise when you think about it. But that's what we have when you talk about this particular situation in Cleveland. They've had, over 200 quarterbacks since they came back into the league in 1999. I lost count after 100. I mean, that's what they have in Cleveland right now, don't they? So that's what is going on over there. And I'm not going to make the big hup out of Gabriel's comments like idiots like Stephen A. Smith do, because we'll want to start with number 1. Stephen A. Smith is a definition of an idiot. Number 2, anyone that makes any remark about what he said is a definition of an idiot. And number 3, the kid just basically is caught up in emotions. Granted, I wouldn't have said that the way he did, but it is what it is at this point. But that Cleveland quarterback situation is a mess. I think they have like 10 quarterbacks. I think I lost count after 5. And they've had, 200 quarterbacks since they came back into the National Football League in 1999. I lost count after 100. So we'll see where this one takes us. I mean, you would think at some point that organization will find some stability at quarterback. Here we are in the year 2025. I think it was the 26th year after they returned to the NFL. And what happened as a result? Now they have more quarterback problems, and there's no way you could probably imagine them going through this again. And I don't know why they feel the need to go through it. I mean, they just signed Isaiah Bond as a wide receiver after a list criminal act, and Andrew Berry's trying to defend it. But we know Andrew Berry's an idiot in Cleveland, so I'll just leave it at that. The people up in Northern Ohio are something else, I'm telling you. And I thought I had to deal with them in Southwestern Ohio, in Cincinnati. Cleveland might be as bad, if not worse, when we talk about the sports fandom, because there's total delusionalism, and I mean delulu, when it comes to Browns fans. And, of course, the preseason as it goes through, of course, the question is who are some of the rookies that stood out. There's actually 2 that stood out for me, and they've been absolutely lights out so far. Some others on top of it, but actually 3 of them, when you think about it. As I mentioned earlier, Josh Simmons, the draft pick out of Ohio State, going to Kansas City. They needed a left tackle for a while. They haven't had any kind of stability since they had Eric Fisher many years back. He's performed very well for them. You have the standout, of course, Jackson Dart, the quarterback for the Giants, who I think is going to eventually take the job from Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston at some point. I wasn't hip with him when he came out of Mississippi. He was sort of hit and miss. But so far in the preseason, he's looked pretty darn good, and he deserves his props for it. So kudos to him as well. And, of course, from the Ohio State University, the standout, Trey Hendrickson, who's just killing it over there in New England. Of course, the kickoff return for a touchdown. And that's what basically he's parlayed it to a stellar rookie preseason as we know it. Of course, a lot of them out there. I mean, I haven't got a chance to see an entire list of the rookies. I don't pay much attention to the preseason like everyone else. But if something catches my eye, I will make sure I acknowledge it. And those are the 3 guys I acknowledge the most. So that takes care of my NFL segment. More will come, of course, later on this week. And I will give my NFL show next week, basically solely on division winners, conference playoffs, and yada, yada, yada. Now to the WNBA, and I'm going to touch on this real briefly because I got a chance to see this in full detail, and we have a problem. We have a problem. And we know what happened with Caitlin Clark not too long ago. And now the same thing happens to her teammate, Sophie Cunningham. Those who wanted to know, I got a chance to see this again. The player, I guess, threw a shot up, I guess, lowered her shoulder and just took out the legs of Cunningham. And Cunningham is on a day-to-day for waiting on an MRI for the knee. I mean, if that was not the definition of an intentional cheap shot, I don't know what is. I mean, the first replay I saw, I mean, it looked bad. I didn't think it was intentional because the angle was out of range. Then someone did a zoom in on it, and I don't know what the heck to tell you. I mean, there's an image of this player. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, with a smile on her face, seeing Sophie Cunningham on the court holding her knee in pain, and that's the image I needed to know. Because look, we get it. WNBA is a hot mess. We know it. I mean, they're at a point where I think they should be considering folding, especially when you have this going on. And you have a cheap shot that takes place, and this is one of the blatant cheap shots I've seen in any basketball plays. I mean, I've followed a lot of professional basketball. I seldom see, deliberate cheap shots. Maybe the only cheap shot I saw close to this was the 2011 playoffs when Andrew Bynum forearm shiver J.J. Barrera airborne when the Mavericks were running the Lakers out of town and sweeping them. But that was because Andrew Bynum couldn't take a loss like a man. He was just a coward. But what I saw on the night of this particular WNBA game with Sophie Cunningham, that definitely was a cheap shot. I'm sorry. You can't say otherwise to me. I saw the videos. I've seen the photos. I've seen the lady's reaction. When you're smiling after somebody got hit, that is all I needed to know. And hopefully Sophie Cunningham comes back soon. I swear, I like to say something positive about that league, but when you consider what they've done with first Caitlin Clark and now this, not being able to protect their star players, there's a problem. And at some point, you would think that all of a sudden they would have a resolution to it and they would want to do something about it, but they don't. But I guess they want to find Sophie Cunningham for making TikTok videos and while ignoring this. That's why the WNBA is a laughing stock, even though I'm a fan of a few of the players in the league. And that's why everyone's calling for the league to fold after what took place over the weekend with Cunningham having her leg taken out. I get it. I mean, I try to follow it. I try to be open-minded to everything, men's and women's, because there's some real competitive female athletes of my time, especially going back to someone like Jackie Joyner-Kersee, just to name one of them. But when you have something like this happen, you want to talk about black eyes? That's a black eye, and it's not a good one either. So that takes care of that. Shout out Jason Sweet, my old longtime buddy for the longest time. I just see you pop in here. I hope you're doing good. Now to what took place over the weekend in the world of combat sports. We're going to start with what took place in the UFC 319 in Chicago. It was the shocker Khazmat Chimaev just totally dominating, and I mean just dominating Dricus Du Plessis. And this fight wasn't even close. I mean, you're talking about a case of total strikes 529 to 45, even though they weren't really hard hits, but it did the damage, and it was enough for Chimaev to win the UFC middleweight championship. 12 of 17 takedown attempts, 21 minutes of ground control. A very good standout ground fighter was Chimaev, and he showed it again. Du Plessis may be one of the harder strikers in the UFC, and he was waiting for that moment where he was going to find a way to strike Chimaev and maybe find a way to pull it out. But that did not happen, and that's all credit to Chimaev, who finally got to the top of the mountain to become the UFC middleweight champ. I mean, all three judges had it 50-44. I think only one of the rounds was 10-8, but it could have been more because it was that one-sided. I mean, Du Plessis had no chance. I mean, this match was over in a minute. I mean, when you think about it, now he's on to bigger and better things. I mean, maybe we'll see Du Plessis again, but man, you got to be impressed with what Chimaev did. I mean, a lot of people thought it was boring because he was on the ground. What was the guy supposed to do? That's his strong suit. I mean, ground and pound is what he is. And we face a hard-hitting striker like Du Plessis. What are you going to do? Keep him on the ground as much as possible. Total of 21 minutes, 40 seconds. That's the difference. And he just dominated the standout Du Plessis. Big win by Khazmat Chimaev to win the middleweight championship. And of course, his own hometown of Chicago booed him because he didn't like his style. Doesn't matter. It's a winning formula. He won the championship. Kudos to him. But two shout-outs to Lerone Murphy and Carlos Parates, who used the spinning back elbow, one of the coolest things I've seen, to win their respective matches. And now it turns out Parates wants to fight with Leon Edwards. Good luck with that. But they both got big wins. And shout out to Tim Elliott, who got the win on the guillotine to win that one. And Elliott, I like him in the UFC also. So good card all around. One of the better cards UFC's had in quite some time from top to bottom. Good finishes all the way around. Tim Elliott, and of course, Chimaev, I can't even pronounce the guy's first name correctly, winning their respective matches. Of course, Lerone Murphy with the spinning back elbow like Carlos Prates did. When Prates just obliterated Jeff Neal just before round one ended. Perfectly timed, perfectly placed. Just like boxing also. But good UFC 319 card. And I can't wait for them next year to go to Paramount because I think they're going to do much better on Paramount than they are on ESPN. And I can't wait for it because everyone's already had their fill in the UFC community over when they were on ESPN. And we know just how bad it was on that network. Paramount isn't messing around. This deal is not a mess around either. $7.7 billion. I think UFC is going to do some real good stuff, and it's going to open a lot of eyes to the UFC fan base. I think they're talking about simulating some cards on the CBS free TV, which I think would be terrific. Kudos to UFC for a heck of a card. I'm not the biggest Dillian Whyte fan, but for this night, I am, because a hell of a card he put together. Now to the world of boxing. And now everyone is in the craze of Moses Itauma. We know what he did over the weekend when he obliterated what's left of Dillian Whyte in one round. And now everyone is trying to put this guy on a pedestal and now wants to see him fight guys like Alexander Usyk or Joseph Parker. Pause. I get it. He has a governing body ranking. But that's all it is. It's a governing body ranking. But to put this kid at age 20 against the best fighter pound for pound or Alexander Usyk, or arguably the second best heavyweight right now in Joseph Parker, would be career suicide because we've seen it all the time in boxing. You've seen a guy that untested, not unproven, and you put him in the ring with someone of the caliber of an Usyk or a Parker, not good things are going to come out of it because that's likely happening. Now, I know Usyk is on 38. He can't stay young forever. But, at this rate, he'd probably be a substantially giant favorite over Itauma. And basically the same with Joseph Parker. But I like what this guy does. I mean, it was a wow factor the way he just obliterated Whyte, albeit a 3-time drug cheat. But he did the job, got him out of there, disposed of him, and he's on to other things. An ideal opponent for him, I think, would be a guy like Fabio Wardley, who we know if Wardley can crack. And we get to see what happens when someone hits Itauma. That's going to happen if we get Itauma versus Wardley. That might be the fight I'm looking for, would make. Someone said Ajit Kayabel. I won't go that far because Kayabel we know would duck it. But Wardley might be the option right now. Maybe a guy like even a Daniel Dubois, the former fake heavyweight champion. And Itauma would do dollars in England being an all-English showdown. A couple of others on there. But I'm not even putting this guy anywhere near an Alexander Usyk or a Joseph Parker at this point, despite having the number one ranking in one of the governing bodies. Because that is what the situation is. Because he has a number one ranking doesn't mean he deserves a title shot. He hasn't done anything of significance yet. Beating a 3-time drug cheat doesn't necessarily mean he's a great thing to sliced bread. A lot of people compare him to Mike Tyson. Let me remind you, Mike Tyson once had 13 fights in a year. He's only had 13 fights himself being Itauma. How are you going to compare him to Mike Tyson? That's just moronic. Carried on, and we think about what Itauma has done and the ability to show the whole world what he's capable of. He has the wow factor. Now we got to see him tested. I don't want to talk about him about title shots until I see this guy tested. A guy like Fabio Wardley might be the opponent for now. So I would say Jared Anderson, but I think he overwhelms Anderson because Anderson's checked out a long time ago. Maybe a Bacoli could make sense. A couple of others in that category. But no Alexander Usyk, no Joseph Parker. I don't think Itauma is ready for that kind of competition because we haven't seen him push or tested yet. Until we see him pushed or tested, we need to pause on where this guy is going. The potential is there. I'll give you that. The potential is there, but that is all I'm giving you. And I conclude with, speaking of wild guys that do all kinds of records, 88 years ago today, likely an unbreakable record took place at Madison Square Garden. It was Henry Armstrong facing the one-time lightweight champ at the time, the standout Lou Ambers. A stylist himself was Ambers, challenging Armstrong, who was trying to become a world champion in a third weight class simultaneously. Let me remind you guys in the boxing community here. This guy went from featherweight at 126, got a ninth round knockout, moved up to welterweight at 147 to beat the standout Barney Ross. And Ross was a standout. Armstrong just obliterated him. It was basically Ross's last fight. And it was 147. He goes down to 135 to fight the standout Lou Ambers, who holds 2 wins over the standout Tony Canzonori, and was making a defense of his championship against Armstrong, who was looking to make history. Henry Armstrong got what all he could handle and then some from Anders. This despite after flooring Anders twice, Armstrong looked like he was in control. But out of nowhere, Anders comes rolling back, beating up Armstrong in the process. A couple points were taken away for fouls from Armstrong. And in a hotly disputed decision still to this day, which has at the time, the boxing community or the high-level beat writers split down the middle on this one. Henry Armstrong made history, becoming the only fighter to win lineal world championships in 3 weight classes simultaneously when he got the split decision nod over Lou Ambers. Henry Armstrong, we talk about guys that go get it. Henry Armstrong's a guy that gets it. And that's what he did during his time. And he did it here. Lou Ambers had a terrific reign as a champion. We talk about his run. I'm going to pull up his record here as I'm talking to you guys. I'm going to see this here. We talk about, as I said, he holds not just one win over Henry Armstrong. Yeah, no, he holds only one win over Henry Armstrong. Big guys like Baby Arzamati, Paul Jr., Jimmy Vaughn, and of course, I said the 2 of 3 over Tony Canzoneri, one of the first multi-division world champions and one of the ultra elite lightweights of all time. And one of the times he made Canzoneri look like an amateur. And that's saying a whole lot about just how great Lou Ambers was. But it was controversial enough to where it prompted a rematch a year later. And in that particular rematch at Yankee Stadium, Lou Ambers got his lightweight title back by unanimously decisioning Henry Armstrong by controlling the fight from start to finish and winning that one to regain his lightweight championship. And that tells you just how great of a fighter Lou Ambers was. But we talk about the ultra all-time greats, and we talk about the Mount Rushmore of boxing, because everybody likes to talk about Mount Rushmores. I have about 50 of these. He's number 4 of my all-time pound-for-pound Mount Rushmore, being Henry Armstrong because of his accomplishments. The other 3 ahead of him are no-brainers. Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, and Joe Louis. Because those 4 did things that will never be touched or never be seen. Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali, those speaks for themselves. Joe Louis, as I mentioned, the 12 years as the undisputed heavyweight champ in the one-belt era, 25 successful title defenses, which included the one-round demolishing of Max Schmeling, among many others. And, of course, Henry Armstrong, who 88 years ago today in Madison Square Garden made another unbreakable record that's not going to be touched. The lineal 3-division world champion from featherweight to welterweight down to lightweight. So he went from 126 up to 147. And we went from 26 to 47. He beat Barney Ross. And from 47 down to 35, he challenges Lou Ambers and wins the undisputed lightweight championship. Let me remind you guys again, this was the one belt era where one belt was a king of the crop. Not fake championships like David Benavidez has, not fake championships like Daniel Dubois once had. Real championships, one belt, and it was all she wrote. And that's what we had with Henry Armstrong doing it simultaneously at 3 weight classes. And everyone talks about how people are afraid to make moves to other weight classes, go up, come down. This guy did this run from featherweight to welterweight to lightweight in less than 10 months. I don't want to hear it. Henry Armstrong, when he won the featherweight title at 126, moved up to 147 in probably like less than 6 months. And then shortly after that, he comes down to 135 to beat Ambers and to complete that crazy run. Think about it. From 26 to 47, down to 35 in less than a year, and you're winning lineal world titles simultaneously, holding them at the same time. That's GOAT status right there. I don't want to hear about multiple titles out of Filipino fighters who can't lay off the roids. I don't want to hear about just how, certain fighters post pictures of them having belts, like the guy who beats up women. This guy had 3 legit light lineal championships simultaneously, from 126 up to 147, down to 135. And this was an old school 8. It's not, you have the super divisions or the junior divisions we have today. This was an old school 8, and he went from 26 to 47, down to 35. Think about that for a minute. Everyone complains about weight cutting. Everyone complains about, losing weight. Everyone talks about how people are lethargic on the scales. Henry Armstrong is turning in his grave because he went from, he gained 21 pounds and lost 12 pounds in a span of a year. And just won lineal titles all over the place simultaneously. He just didn't win them all, but he did it simultaneously. Lou Ambers was no pushover. 2-time lightweight champion. He's had a lot of great wins over his resume. As I said, 2 of the 3 over the standout Tony Canzoneri. The end came when he lost twice to the standout Lou Jenkins in Madison Square Garden, where he was just beaten up all over the place. But that came after his win over Armstrong in their rematch, and that was basically Lou Ambers' downturn. But Lou Ambers, we have the 100 greatest fighters of all time. And we talk about Henry Armstrong, probably in the top 4 or 5. In the middle of that list was Lou Ambers. I think one publication had him as high as 47. That's just tell you just how good of a fighter he was and how he gave Henry Armstrong in those 2 fights everything he can handle and then some. And it took Armstrong going to the extra well to make history when he beat him exactly 87 years ago today at Madison Square Garden to make history because Lou Ambers wasn't laying down for anyone. That's how great Lou Ambers was. But it just goes to show next level greatness is what Henry Armstrong is. I mean, talk about all the GOATs in all the sports. I said the top 4 of my GOAT list in boxing is Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, and Henry Armstrong because they did things nobody will ever touch in my lifetime or in the years after my lifetime because it's going to take somebody miraculously insane, through the roof insane, to even come close. I didn't say break them. I said come close because they didn't need resort to PEDs. They didn't need to resort to anything else. They just went in there, put their butts on the line, did the job. It wasn't about dollars. It wasn't about A side versus B side. It wasn't about C side or Z side. It wasn't even about who's going to make the most money. It was about making history and making history of its kind, and that's what Henry Armstrong did. Read all the stories about both Henry Armstrong and Lou Ambers. 2 standouts. You're talking about 2 of the 60 greatest fighters of all time, especially at least south of the heavyweight division. Or I was going to say 2 of the top 25 lightweights of all time. We talk about Ambers' run because he's in that conversation also. We talk about some of the great lightweights. It's just not talked about enough because it overshadows a lot of guys. But let me remind you, when you go 2-1 against Tony Canzoneri in those days, you did something right, and that's what Lou Ambers did. But Henry Armstrong made an unbreakable record that's probably never going to be touched in the sport of boxing or any level of combat sports. 3 world championships simultaneously, 3 lineal heavyweight championships, 3 lineal world championships, keyword being lineal, not paper championships, not alphabet soup organizations, not paper championships, not fake championships, like the fake championship David Benavidez has. Real championships, king of the crop, One belt era, winner takes all. That's all she wrote. That's what that era was. Too many guys just act like belts matter. It didn't matter Henry Armstrong because when he wasn't the cream of the crop, top of the heap, no one wanted to mess with him. That's what Henry Armstrong was. Oh, I had to get off my chest tonight. But for you historians out here, you guys talk about acting like world championships mean something, multiple divisions. When Henry Armstrong did it, he did it simultaneously at a time when 3-division world championships was the marquee accomplishment. Because anybody can win 3 world championships in an alphabet soup era today. Back then, it was 3 lineal world championships against the elite competition, and at a time when actually, if you got the common thing was 2 divisions, especially in the old school 8. But when you did it in 3 weight classes, you were the cream of the crop, and that was all she wrote for Henry Armstrong, because that's what put him at the pedestal that no one in those weight classes is ever going to touch. They talk about the land of the little giants. Henry Armstrong stands over all of those little giants. When you think about what he did from featherweight to welterweight to lightweight. Miraculously incredible. No one's touching that. And that'll wrap up this edition of Sir Hunt on X. I hope everyone had themselves a wonderful 18th of August 2025. Everybody in Cincinnati, calm down. It's just a preseason game. I get it. Joe Burrow shouldn't have been out there, but that's on Zach Taylor and a lot of you guys in the Bengals fan community. But I will touch on that another day. But relax. He's fine. Let's just get ready for week 1 in Cleveland. If you missed any part of this show or any others in the past, all of my archives are now on the Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify apps. And as always, make self-care your number 1 priority in all of life. If you take care of yourself first, all the good things will come your way. If you do not take care of yourself first, nothing else matters in any form of life. Focus on you and only you first, because you focus on you. That's when all the good things come, because there's going to be leeches out there who's going to try to interfere with you. And as a result, it's going to sidestep you. And then that's where you're not making self-care number 1 priority. Stay away from the leeches. Stay away from all the negativity. Focus on you. Focus on you moving forward. And just remember, it's just 1 step at a time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Have a good rest of the night. Take care of yourselves. God bless. Enjoy the evening. And I will talk to you soon.